In this video, we're going to find out how each state trended on a presidential level between 1972 and 2024. We're going to go from the Nixon landslide to the re-election of Trump. Last week, we took a look at the shifts or the swings in each state. Today, we're going to compare those swings to the national swing to get the trends in each state. If you're confused, we'll break it all down in just a minute. The map is also coming up, but first, we've got to quickly zip through the background information. In 72, Nixon won in a blowout. He finished with 520 electoral votes. He carried 49 states and he got 60.7%. George McGovern took the loss with 17 electoral votes, one state plus DC, and 37.5% of the vote. Then super quick in 24, we've got Trump at 312. He got 31 states and Maine second, worth 49.8%. Harris took the loss with 226. She got 19 states, DC and Nebraska second, worth 48.3%. That's going to get us onto the spreadsheet. On the left, we've got the states. Then it's the 72 vote for McGovern, then for Nixon. Then it's a 24 vote for Harris, then Trump. Then we've got the margins in 72 shaded accordingly. Then the same for 24. Then we've got the column from last week. These are the swings in each state. That's the difference between the two previous columns. Then the most important column for this video is the trends. This will compare the individual swings in each state to the national swing. And these two columns do have shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. The lightest are going to be under 5%. So at the beginning, we've got to get our baseline. That's the national popular vote swing. Again, we've got McGovern at 37.5, Nixon at 60.7. Then Harris is at 48.3, Trump at 49.8. Both of those are GOP wins, but the margin for Nixon in 72 was huge. It was 23.2. For Trump, it was just 1.5. So 23.2 minus 1.5 comes out to a 21.7 swing toward the Dems. So anything that swung in that direction higher than that is going to be a blue trend. Anything less than that is going to be a red trend. So it's already a huge blue swing. It might be a little tough for some states to keep up. Let's look at that first state. That's Alabama. In 72, McGovern got 25.5. Nixon won the state with 72.4. 52 years later, Kamala Harris went up to 34.1. Trump went down to 64.6. The margin for Nixon in 72 was 46.9. The margin for Trump in 24 was 30.5. That means the state did swing 16.4% toward the Dems, but that 16.4% is less than the national swing of 21.7. So 21.7 minus 16.4 comes out to a trend of 5.3 away from the Democrats and toward the Republicans. So the state moved toward the Dems just a little bit less than that national movement. So that comes out to a red trend. In Alaska, that state moved even less toward the Dems than Alabama. So they've got a red trend of 11.3. But in Arizona, this state swung more than that national popular vote. They did it by 25.6. So that's the first blue trend, and that comes in at 3.9. Now let's quickly go through the rest of these states. Arkansas trended redder by 14.2. And now we've got a bunch of blue trends. It's California at 12. Colorado, 17.3. Connecticut, 11.3. Delaware, 13.4. Even Florida trended bluer at 9.3. Georgia and Hawaii had the same trend. They were both up there at 26.4. But in Idaho, they trended redder at an even 20. Illinois was bluer at 7.7. Indiana, almost the same amount in the other direction at 7.8. Iowa was even 10 points redder than that at 17.8. Kansas had the smallest trend out of all the states. It swung 22 toward the Dems, almost perfectly in line with the national movement. That comes out to a tiny blue trend of just 0.3%. Kentucky is back toward the right at 23.6. Louisiana also at 6.8. Maine got bluer at 8.2. Maryland way bluer at 30.7. Massachusetts, the only state that McGovern won in 72. But in the end, the state trended redder at 5.5. Michigan was in that same ballpark at 8.7. Minnesota was double digits in the red at 12. Mississippi, that's a red state, but it swung pretty hard toward the Dems, enough so that it had a blue trend of 14. Missouri went toward the GOP at 15.5. Montana did so at 21.6. Nebraska did as well, but it was by a tiny 1.3. Nevada had a small blue trend of 2.6. Also in that direction, we've got New Hampshire at 10.3, New Jersey 9, New Mexico 8.8, New York 8.1, and North Carolina 15.7. North Dakota had a solid red trend of 31.1. 9.9. Ohio, about a third of that at 11.2. Oklahoma, almost half that at 6.3. Oregon went toward the Dems at 2.8. Pennsylvania back toward the GOP at 3.4. Rhode Island, a little less than that, also toward the GOP at 1.8. South Carolina toward the Dems at 3.2. In South Dakota, that was George McGovern's home state at 72. He didn't win it, but the margin was narrow enough that it had the biggest red trend out of all the states. It's coming in at a massive 42.2. Tennessee is much lower at 13.5. Texas still way lower than that at 2.4. Utah's right around there at 1.7. Vermont had the biggest blue trend out of all the states, coming in at 36%. Virginia is also notable at 21.7. Washington, same direction, 14.8. Then we're going to get redder in West Virginia at 36.4. Wisconsin, 12.9. And Wyoming, 29. Then there's Washington, D.C. that trended blue at 5.6. So that's all the data. Those are all the trends. Now we could take it all. We could put it on a map to help visualize the changes. Here's what we've got. It's similar shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more percent. This time the lightest colors are under 1%. Those would be the tilt margins. There's only one state on here that fits that description. That is Kansas. So last week, Montana had almost no movement whatsoever when we're looking at the swings. This time, Kansas had almost no movement either. They swung a ton, but it was almost the exact same as the national swing. Other than that, most but not all of the states that we think of as being red are red on this map. Some exceptions, though, are Alaska, Mississippi, Florida, and the Carolinas. You might also think Mississippi would be the same as neighboring Alabama. It turns out Alabama just swung a lot less than Mississippi. That's why that state is red and Mississippi is blue. There's also some blue states on here that are shaded in red. Notably, we've got Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Minnesota. Some states moved a little, some moved a ton. When you're looking at more than 50 years of shifts, a lot of these states started in different places. They had totally different voting patterns. Even if they wound up in a similar place, the way they got there might be totally different. If the end result is Oregon and Nevada had a similar blue trend, but it was still less than Florida, then you know each state has its own political journey. Nixon had a gigantic landslide in 72. By comparison, Trump's win was much more conventional. But when the entire country swung more than 20% toward the Dems, it's going to be very tough for each individual state to also move in that same direction to that extent. So once you crunch all the numbers at the top, using the current electoral vote map, Dems were favored with 304. Republicans were at 234. So maybe it means a lot, maybe not. Either way, if you were curious about which way the states trended between 72 and 24, this is going to be the map right here. So let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the trends in any of these states? What do you think about some of these blue states getting redder and some of these red states getting bluer? How about the states that decided not to move much at all? What do you think stands out to you the most? Why did the states trend the way that they did? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.